Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show for making the world safe for ADHD. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, and I'm in private practice, and about an easy 50%, if not more, of my practice is ADHD. Right now, at this stage in my career, I do a lot of evaluations and some therapy, but not as much as I used to. Okay, but I've had about 35, 40 years, 40 years of experience working with ADHD, and I'm also the parent of an ADHD. Was a child, now he's an adult. And as I have said almost every show, back in the day, we didn't know too much about what ADHD was. Come to think of it, we weren't even sure it was a thing. So the treatments weren't real good. The ways of identifying ADHD weren't great. They're still not perfect, but they're getting better and better. The major problem you get, and you still get a lot of it, is that people just don't believe there's such a thing. In spite of the fact that the first description of ADHD was in the 1700s, 1707 or something like that, by a Scottish physician identified ADHD. And we've been treating it with stimulant medications since 1937. And there have been just countless studies showing, as the ability to track things, as the ability to, MRIs and CT scans and more sensitive medication checks and all that kind of, more sensitive ways of identifying neurotransmitters and so on. As that's gotten better, we've gotten a clearer picture of what ADHD is and what it's all about. And it, son of a gun, is a real thing. And it's not like brain damage, okay? It's genetic, it's inherited, it runs in families. I think I've mentioned before, the heritability index on it is like 85%, which is incredibly high. That basically means if one of you out there's got ADHD or an ADHD child, there's a family history on one side or the other of ADHD, whether it's ever been diagnosed or not. For a lot of people, that's another issue, is that we just don't go to the doctor in my family. Okay. But that just means it'd be harder to track the ADHD in your family. But if you look at some of the other things that go along with ADHD, you can probably tease it out. I won't go into all that right now. I may later on. But for right now, I want to talk about the effect of ADHD. The fact that it is genetic. It's not because mom ate too many Snickers bars during the pregnancy, and it's not because your parents are really bad parents. None of that is what we're talking about. The problem is that the brain, while it's not damaged, it is different than a neurotypical brain. Neurotypicals are folks who haven't been diagnosed, who don't deserve the diagnosis of ADHD. Okay, but there are certain differences in the way the brain works, and they're kind of subtle, really. There's one study that shows that grossly, the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain up here, which is the part that's most of what we think of as executive functioning, like reasoning, problem solving, impulse control, emotional regulation, all those things are up there. But it was like, okay, so was it some kind of damage? Or no, wasn't damage. It's actually that it seems like for some reason in the ADHD brain, uh, certain neurotransmitters are metabolized faster than what we consider normal. Which means when your kiddo is running around all over the place, what he's trying to do is stimulate the production of that neurotransmitter in his brain. That's why so many ADHDers tend to be into thrill stuff, parachuting off of cliffs and other things like that most of us say, no way, ain't gonna happen, not me. But that's what it does. That thrill, that scare, if you will, stimulates the brain to produce those neurotransmitters. Okay, now today I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the things, if you're a parent of an ADHD child and you don't have ADHD yourself, or if you have ADHD, if you do everything right you can do as a parent, everything you can do as a person who knows he's got ADHD or she's got ADHD, even in those unusual, actually, circumstances, if you know what you're supposed to do and you do exactly what you're supposed to do, you're still going to run into situations where you're going to have difficulties. You're still going to be impulsive. You're still going to tend to jump first and figure out if you should later, and that will periodically get you into trouble. I could say that, if you were raised by parents, or if you yourself are a parent who's raising your child properly, those setbacks are not going to be like catastrophic, 20 years in jail, that kind of stuff. That isn't what happens. But what tends to happen is you jump on something without thinking it through. And sometimes that's actually an advantage. That means you get an edge on more careful people who go slower and will double check everything and that sort of stuff. So by the time they start doing the same thing you're doing, you're miles ahead of the game. And that explains one of the edges that ADHDers who are entrepreneurs have. You're not as troubled by doubt as neurotypicals tend to be. Like I said, that can give you a great edge. It can also drive you to bankruptcy. So you're going to mess up more than most people just because you have ADHD. And also because of the way our society is, or used to be. I'm not sure now. We're going through some massive changes. But that's the way it traditionally has been. And, if you have an ADHD child, the school system is so not designed for ADHDers. Schools teach conventional thinking. Schools teach conventional kids conventional thinking. They don't do real well with kids who don't fit in the blocks very well. And ADHD, your kids don't. And even in society in general, it's designed more for conventional people. Folks who are outliers, who are a little more impulsive, think a little differently, that sort of stuff. There's a price for being able to do that. The price is that sometimes you're going to fall right on your nose and fail spectacularly sometimes. That's if you look at, I won't say all entrepreneurs, but many entrepreneurs have failed multiple times, have had multiple bankruptcies before they finally became crazy successful. The point being, you got to have a little more tolerance for error if you have ADHD or you're raising an ADHD kid, because they're going to flop occasionally. They're going to do one of those, what was he thinking kinds of things. But you can't give up on them. That's the big message. You do not give up. You keep boosting them up, getting them, standing up on your own 2 feet, kind of, how are you going to recover from this? What did you learn from this? That kind of stuff. To make sure they stay on track and they don't give up. And if you've raised an ADHD kid, or you've been raised as an ADHD kid, hopefully that's one of the things you've learned, is that you keep trying, you keep doing it, you keep plugging along. You use failure experiences or as an opportunity to learn something. At least you don't use it as an opportunity to give up, okay? Giving up is never the option, never the best option. There's all this cliche kind of stuff. You're never a failure until you give up. Well, unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but it's actually, that's a true statement. I mean, you look at the history of entrepreneurs, the autobiographies, the known information in history books about some of the great inventors and innovators in the past. They all weren't fazed by failure. I'd forgotten how many times Thomas Edison failed before he was able to make a light bulb. Reportedly, he supposedly said, well, now I know 2,200 ways not to make a light bulb. Okay. I mean, that's a heck of an attitude. That's an attitude that will ultimately lead you to success. But, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that's easy, but you've got to have the same attitude. I read tons of things on social media about ADHD. I'm in easy half dozen, if not more, ADHD groups, Facebook and all that. And sometimes the entries, the things that people post are like, oh my God, people talking about how depressed they are, how they're sick of failing, how they've screwed up their lives, and that sort of stuff. It's like, you can't let ADHD stuff, which is basically mostly impulsive, not being quite as efficient in certain areas as other folks. Usually it's in areas that you don't really like anyway. So you gotta be a little more sensitive to that, because one of the most important things to understand about ADHD is that your attention system works just fine if you're interested in whatever the topic is. It really sucks if it's something you hate doing. So your job is to figure out those areas that you're really good at and really like doing, and get out from under the idea that you should like doing this. There are tons of people out there. I've had a bunch of patients myself. They're good at meeting and getting along with people in sales and that sort of stuff. But what they want to do is go to nursing school and become nurses. It's like, oh my God, do you know what the life of a nurse is like? Do you know what the training is like? If you don't actually absolutely love it, it's gonna be painful getting there. The same with guys, they kind of pick a subject area because they've been told an area where you can make a lot of money, you can be successful at it. But if it's not one of your areas of interest, it's not going to work for you. Okay, it is just not going to work for you. You will I mean, you may get through it. I'm not saying that, but it will be much harder than life needs to be. Find the things that you're naturally interested in, the things that you're naturally good at. Emphasize those. And you'll have fewer cases where you're tempted to give up, for one thing. But you will be in an area, in a situation where your chances of success are better. Okay, you follow your bliss, as they say, which sounds corny as heck, but the stuff you like to do, the stuff you're naturally good at, the stuff that your, hand falls naturally to, that's what you need to be pursuing. Okay? Even if making money is not guaranteed in that area, in that field, you're better off doing something you like and that you're good at than doing something you hate because you're told that it is the best field to be in financially. You know? If you are one of those ADHDers, and there are a bunch of them, who are just a natural wheeler dealer, you just love the deal, you love getting with people and figuring out what they want and getting a product that you can sell to them, or have them meet a bunch of other people and come up with a business deal. If that's the kind of guy you are, or kind of girl you are, great. But make sure you're doing that for a living. Don't become an accountant because they're guaranteed to make money. Become something that you're happy doing, and that will make it easier on you. And then the other thing is, don't give up. Okay, nothing's coming totally easy. Okay, some things are going to come easier than others, and just don't let yourself get so discouraged by the things that don't come easy that you give up on a whole area that you've spent a lot of time and money with. I work with a lot of ADHD entrepreneurs. One of the things they need is somebody on their team who is level-headed to the boring. Okay, they are so logical and so on that they just don't do impulsive things. That's what you need, though. You need somebody in your outfit, in your family, or in your business, if you're an entrepreneur. Somebody who says, "Whoa, wait a minute. We need to think about that one, because the consequences of screwing up that one are big, and we need to think about that." And that is what you need. Not that they'll have total veto power, but that they just say, "Well, wait a minute, let's think about it." You get a little more time instead of going on your happily ADHD impulsive way and then starting to go, "Ooh, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was going to be." You just need somebody like that to balance you out and to keep the impulsive thing from killing the company or messing up your life. Okay, and that's makes it easier to not give up. So know what you're good at. Know what your strengths are. Know what your interests are. Know what you hate doing and aren't good at. And make sure your life has mostly the things that you like doing. And once you get started, don't quit. You're going to fall on your nose every once in a while. But keep plugging. Eventually, it will work out. Okay. That's it for me for today. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, the show that strives to make the world safe for ADHDers. Because remember, conventional thinkers don't change the world. People who think outside the box change the world. And ADHDers were born outside the box. So who knows, your child, or even you yourself, may be the one that comes up with the solution to a whole bunch of problems that we're having right now in the world. So cherish that. Cherish them. And keep plugging. Don't give up. Okay, well, you can obviously leave comments. Join the group. That'll get you more notice about when things are being published and that sort of stuff. Because I'm about to make some big changes, okay? Add some exciting new stuff. Well, just a lot more options to get the word out there. And so you'll get the word better if you, I've forgotten what they call it, join or subscribe or one of those words. But anyway, it should be right around where you're watching now with the option to do that. And my website is terrygingrasphd.com, and got a couple of offers on there. Right now I'm offering a copy of my book, a Kindle copy, if you will, of my book on strategic parenting. Even if you don't have a kid right now, it's a pretty good book. Okay. No, not planning on that. Okay. Anyway, you hey Stacy. I haven't heard from you in a long time. Good to hear from you. Anyway, so what I'm trying to get out is that it's a book called Strategic Parenting. It's it gives you a lot of information, both as an ADHD parent and as an ADHD yourself. So you can get a lot out of it. This is not going to last forever because I am probably going to revise it significantly in the next year or so. Oh, well, good. Didn't know that, Stacy. Glad to hear it. Okay. Well, I'm about to go on and do a couple of other shows on different topics, so we will catch you again next week about the same time. Dr. G's ADHD Chat. We'll catch you later.